You found us. This is the Voiceover Gurus podcast. Welcome.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Voiceover Gurus podcast. I'm Linda Bruno. Trying to chill out a little bit and relax. The weather here in New York has been super crap. It has been just cloudy. But I'm lucky enough to have a guest with me who's also in a cold environment up in Canada, and it's marketing guru Marc Scott. Hello.
Yeah, the weather here's super crap too. So but I mean, you said you're in New York?
I'm in New York.
Yeah, so you're like literally right across the border from me. So, we're sharing the same crap weather. That's just...
It's frustrating, though. It's like dreary. You see it every day. You're like, enough already.
I know. I've been sick for so long, and my wife keeps saying, get vitamin D. I'm like, well, tell the sun to shine, for crying out loud. Like, we haven't seen the sun since October. Well, how do you want me to get vitamin D?
Yeah, so you're going through this, like, unfortunate cycle of illness, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I got it... in the end of November, and I had it for about 2.5 weeks. It got better just in time for the holidays, so I was grateful that I was able to get through Christmas. But then
nice.
I got it again, and I was off for about 2.5 weeks. And then like 2 days ago, back again for the third round. I'm like, for the love of cheese and bacon, I can't do this. Like, I can't be sick every 2 weeks. I'm like, do you have any idea how stupid I look to my agents when I'm booking out every 2 weeks to be sick for another 2 weeks? Like, they don't, like, I'm waiting for them to drop me at this point. Like, I know they don't take me seriously anymore. Like, whatever this 2022, 2023 hybrid version of the cold flu plague is that's going on this year. And I know I'm not the only one that's dealing with it either. So it's like, holy.
You're not alone.
That's what 2 years of isolation gets us. We've got no immune systems left, and now we're just dinked. So what are you going to do?
Well, I kind of try to boost my immune system by having a cocktail from time to time. I am having today something from Kingston, Jamaica, because I'm getting married in Jamaica in about 6 weeks.
I thought maybe that was like a psychological play that you did with yourself to get through New York winter, was to drink fruity drinks or tropical drinks from warm places and be like, screw this winter stuff.
Now, I'm looking forward to getting out of here mid-March, and so I'm like, that's it. I'm going to bring in the Jamaican rum and have a little cocktail. So I understand your favorite drink happens to be Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, there's very seldom is there one outside of my reach. So I they don't sponsor me yet, but I mean, look, if you need an influencer, Dr. Pepper, like, seriously.
Now, does it affect your vocal cords at all, carbonation?
You know what? Even if it did, I don't think it would matter. I think it just adds to the charm and the brand. There's people that sound like they smoke a pack of cigarettes a day. I sound like I drink a bottle of Dr. Pepper a day. I
always worry about that. I mean, I was just talking to Brian Lee the other day, and he was at the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A, and he told me he was getting a cookies and cream milkshake. And then he was going to go, this was like at 11 o'clock in the morning, and then he was going to go voice. And then he went into the booth and he started voicing, and he started hacking up half a lung. And I'm like, it's because of the cookies and cream shake.
Would I drink one in the midst of a live directed session where there's the distinct possibility that I'm going to belch at some point? No, I'm
right.
I'm this much more mature than to do that. But, has it impacted me? Have I been in self-directed sessions for like really long e-learning modules and questioned why I had that Dr. Pepper before I started recording and had a lot of extra editing to do? Maybe not. I'll never tell.
Right. Good. Well, I took one of your courses. I haven't finished it yet. The follow-up masterclass course.
Okay, yes.
Because I'm really, really crappy at following up. I have been my whole career, and I always relied on agents and lazy ass,
Yes.
So, yes. So I watched the video, but your course is not one that can be done like you're watching something else at the same time, or you can't work on anything else. You have to like focus on your course. It's like a really good Netflix show. Because you have to take notes. I take notes. I'm like typing notes out.
I want to make sure that people are feeling like they're getting solid value for their investment, right? There's a lot of stuff that's out there that is like, 75% fluff and rah-rah and crap and 25% good content. I want to give you 90% good content and maybe 10% fluff and rah-rah. Or, 100% good content, hopefully, but you got to always leave a little bit of room for the extra stuff, right? But
yeah. Yeah, it just amazes me. So then I have to make a note of the time code in my notes to come back to that point, because then I'll have to go record something or do something. But I have to say it's just filled with really valuable information. So did you start as a voice actor, or did you start in marketing, or what was your beginning? Where were your beginnings?
Like so many others, I'm a recovering radio guy. I suffered my final corporate downsize in 2011 and said that was it. The exact words as I was being escorted out of the building, because it's just policy that we escort you out of the building, was from now on, the only idiot I answer to is me. And I didn't know exactly what that meant at the time, but it felt like a really good final parting shot as I was on my way out the door. I sat around in my underwear and felt sorry for myself for a few months, and then realized that in the midst of all of that, I mean, I had always done voiceover on the side, or, for a number of years I had done voiceover on the side, but that voiceover money kept coming in and kept helping to make sure that the rent was getting paid. And there came a point when I was like, maybe I can do something with this. Maybe if I actually, give it a legitimate effort and try to turn it into a legitimate business, I can actually make it into a legitimate business. And so 2012 was the first year that I decided, like, that was my first year, full time, where I was like, I'm going to see what I can make happen with this.
So backtracking to the radio, what format?
I did adult contemporary a lot. I did top 40 for a while. I worked contemporary Christian radio for a while. I worked in country radio. So I did a few different things. I have heard enough Phil Collins and Elton John and Celine Dion to last me 6 lifetimes at this point.
Yeah. I hear you. I hosted Long Island Love Songs for about 3 years. So Wind Beneath My Wings, stabbed my eye a few times. There's
only so many times that you can listen to some of those songs, and that is not a knock. Phil Collins is a legend, but like, seriously.
No, and even after all this time too, I can't listen to it.
Yeah. I feel you on that.
Yeah. I got fired we all got fired. I was in smooth jazz radio in New York City, and they fired 43 of us in a conference call.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it was like, and the morning show guy had been there 27 years, and they literally fired him alongside me, the part-timer, and 43 of us. Hey, at 3:00 today, we're switching to a new format, so everybody can reapply for your jobs. Need to contact us. Security has to come so you can get your headphones. And then one by one, people were dropping off the call. And I thought, this is freaking brutal. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, honestly, to get fired.
Well, and so for me, I was on a date. I was at the Fallsview Casino in Niagara Falls. It was a Saturday night, and a bunch of my radio colleagues started sending me messages and saying, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "I don't know what's going on. I'm at the casino. I'm having dinner at the buffet. What's going on?" And they're like, "So and so posted that he's starting the drive show on Monday. What's going on?" I'm like,
"Oh, God.
I have no idea." So I called my boss on Saturday night, like, I don't know, it was like 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night or something. I'm like, "So what's going on?" He's like, "We're going to talk on Monday." I said, "No, we're going to talk tomorrow. You're going to meet me at the office." And so I came to the office and found out what was going on. And what really did it for me, though, was I had only been in the job for about 6 months. And when I came in like 3 weeks before ratings started. And so they told me, "Don't worry about this book. Like, we understand the circumstances are crazy and blah, 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 right? And so you're not going to be judged and everything's going to be fine." So I come in, I give them number 1 across the board, like literally every single possible category, number 1. And then I still end up losing my job. And I'm like, if I can deliver number 1 and still not have job security, this is not an industry that I want to be a part of anymore. It just... Somewhere along the line, the consultants took over and it just stopped being fun. I mean, I started when the first full-time job that I had in radio, we were live 24/7. Like, that tells you so. Like, when does that ever happen, right? Like, we were legitimately live 24/7 records and CDs and reels.
Splicing tape. Did you splice?
Yes,
yeah.
tapes
Yep.
and right? Like
Me too. Carts.
And you had to be on your game constantly. And then the computers came, and then you didn't really have to be on your game anymore. You just and then the consultants came, and they said the only thing people want to hear from you is a 15-second weather update twice an hour.
Yep.
And
personality went out the window.
And then we got to a point where my job was literally reading cue cards of pre-written, the same 12 pre-written liners over and over. And I'm like, this is stupid.
I would say I'm a glorified button pusher.
Yeah, that was it. I was like, no wonder automation is taking over. And so, I mean, I did enjoy. I enjoyed my job when I first started, the last station that I was at. It was actually like part of the reason why I got the job was because in my interview, I said, this is the station I plan to retire at. I just like, this is where I wanted to get to. This was my pinnacle, keep me here for 30 years type deal. But the general manager that hired me got let go shortly after I came in. And so new general manager comes in and what does he want to do? He wants to make his mark and right. And so
clean house sometimes.
And then we find out later that, the station was getting ready to sell out to a big conglomerate. And so you got to cut the books to make the sale look more whatever. I don't know. It's radio corporate crap, right?
I know.
So, I mean, I don't miss it. I don't miss it. I haven't listened to terrestrial radio since 2011, since I got let go. I don't even listen anymore because it's just
there's really no reason to.
It's got nothing to offer anymore, unfortunately.
No. I listen to satellite radio.
Yep.
But even that's all pre-taped and
I've become an old fart now. I sit in the truck and listen to CNBC, the live stream of CNBC. Like literally, it's like, how bad is that? But
so now, how did you become such a master at all the marketing stuff?
Because I really sucked at it in the beginning, like really, really bad. And so, but I also really didn't want to get evicted from my apartment. And so what I came to realize was if I'm going to make this voiceover thing work, I'm going to have to find a way to make more money at it. And at the time, I like to call it the glory days of online casting, right? It was Voice 123 was still great. There was SmartCast, but it was barely a thing.
Right.
VDC was not considered part of an evil empire at that point. It was still, a good, wholesome player in the game. You could make good money on casting sites if you played them well. And so that was kind of what my plan was. But I also recognized that there was a plateau, right? I was only going to get to a certain point doing online casting. And so I got to a point where I started to ask myself, look, if there are these people who are coming to online casting and they're looking for voice actors, it stands to reason that there's got to be more of these people who are looking for voice actors, but maybe they don't know about online casting. And so maybe there's a way that I can get in touch with them directly. And so I literally started doing Google searches and I started emailing, sometimes 20, 30, 40 people a day. The emails were horrible. The response was not great. And I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so I started studying entrepreneurship and I started studying marketing and that looked like a lot of different things. That was listening to podcasts. It was reading books. It was, I took a couple of classes through my community college, like some online courses and stuff like that. Like I was just doing whatever I could to try to get an education to figure out how to do this better. And, in about 4 years, I built a 6-figure business and had finally started figuring out how it worked and decided, maybe I can help some other people avoid those first 4 really ugly years when I didn't know what I was doing and made a fool of myself repeatedly.
Yeah, but it's valuable. Like I said, everything that you teach, and I'm not just saying this because you're in front of me, they're like juicy little gems. I mean, they're things that are applicable today. For folks. And that is so valuable because I know so many of us really stink at marketing or don't want to reach out, don't want to be a pain. We're like, I just want to be, I'm used to the old days of someone else taking care of it for me and I just focus on my talent. Yep. And being charming, but other than that, now it's like, oh crap, now I have to, extend myself out there and potentially make a fool. But I've gained a lot from the course. I haven't finished it. Like I said, I have to finish it. But it's so good.
What I came to realize at some point was, so voice actors, we operate from the creative side of our brain.
Right.
And the business side is literally, it's the other side of the brain. And it doesn't come as naturally. And what I found out about myself is I actually am a business brain who's trying to figure out the creative side. And so I'm not actually, I wouldn't consider myself a voice actor first. I don't operate from that creative side of my brain first. And so the business side comes really easy and really naturally to me, whereas getting in the booth and trying to do some of the acting stuff in certain genres is a lot harder. And so I understand why voice actors don't want to do it, because it's not the natural bent for your brain, right? You want to be in the booth. You want to be recording, performing, acting, doing that thing. You don't want to be sitting at your desk doing emails or social media or whatever. And so it is a little bit harder to convince yourself to do that. But at the same time, you also have to recognize that the industry has gone through multiple iterations now, and we are a long ways away from the glory days of, Don LaFontaine riding in a limo from studio to studio with agent bookings. Like, does that still happen for some voice actors? Yes. Is that what's going to happen for the majority of us?
Very few.
No. If you want to work now, the majority of your work is probably, for most voice actors, is probably going to come from you going out and actively getting it on your own, and casting sites and agents become a supplementary tool to that.
Right. So what do you think? I think I'm trying to remember. You said the average number of times you have to reach out to somebody is what, like 7?
Yeah.
For them to realize that you're even in existence?
Yeah, 7 or 8 times at least sometimes is what it takes. I mean, I gave an example in a class that I recently taught, and this is an extreme example, but it's an example of what can happen. And I showed an actual screenshot of my inbox from the first email that I sent and all of the subsequent emails that I sent through to the first booking. And it was a 9-year time span.
Wow.
9 years from the first time I reached out to this person until the first time that they actually hired me. Now, again, that's an extreme example. I've got lots of other examples of, 2 years, 3 years, multiple communications. I've also got examples of people that I reached out to and they were the exact right person on the exact right day. And, they hired me within a week. Every once in a while that can happen too. But if you think about how much we are inundated with marketing messages today, you can't avoid it. It's on your phone, it's on your social media, it's in your inbox, it's on your television, it's on your radio, it's in your streaming services, it's on every website. Tracking pixels are literally following you all around the internet, and that's why when you look at that random thing on Amazon, an ad for that random thing starts popping up on every other website that you ever look at for the rest of your life, right? Like, we are inundated with all of these messages, and because of that, it becomes harder to break through. And so it takes more emails or more communications sometimes to get people to pay attention and accept that you are real.
I find this all so overwhelming, though, because there's so many different channels and ways that you can reach out to someone. It's like, should you pick a couple and focus on that?
I think that's actually the beauty of it, is that there are so many ways, because it means that you get to decide what works for you. And so I know voice actors who are absolutely crushing the world of cold calling. Like 40% response rates on their cold calls, which is just insane.
God, I can't cold call.
You couldn't pay me money to do cold calling. Like, it's not my thing. But that's the beauty of this. If you want a cold call, cold call. If you love using LinkedIn, you can build a business off of LinkedIn. If you are an in-person networker and you live in a place where you have the ability to do a lot of in-person networking, you can build relationships and build a client base from doing in-person networking. If it's email, then use email. Like, there are so many different avenues that are available to us now that it does give you the ability to pick the ones that work best for you. And so I've tried all the different forms of social media, and I have found work through Twitter. I've found work through Facebook. I've found it through Instagram. I've found it through LinkedIn. But I've also decided that LinkedIn is my favorite place. And so I spend way more effort on LinkedIn now than I do on Twitter. But that might be talk to Jun Yoon, brilliant voice actor who is playing Twitter like nobody's business. Like, that is his game, and he's killing it on Twitter. And so that's where he spends all of his time. So it really does, it can feel overwhelming if you look at it as a big picture, but if you look at it as there's so many different options, let me pick the one that's best for me, all of a sudden it becomes, oh, this is actually really nice. I can play to my strengths here.
Yeah. I wound up shifting things a bit because I use Nimble for my CRM.
Yep.
And, being in this business for as long as I have a ton of contacts and a ton of people in there. I mean, half of which, who the heck knows if they're even in business, or the relationship is withered because I am so terrible at follow-up. So now I've gone the route of, I have an assistant that helps me find production companies and viable contacts, of using the workflows to organize, like a good lead goes into this pipeline, and then I research that, because otherwise my head's going to explode and then I don't want to do any of it. I just curl up into a ball and lay in the corner.
It does become more challenging the larger your database gets, because it's harder to keep up with people. But again, that's
I want to bomb it. I want to destroy it all.
Yeah.
I want to start from scratch.
Well, but that's where I say you got to prioritize then at that point, right? When the larger that your database gets, the reality is I do not churn through my entire database nearly as often as I used to back in the day. But that's because I've got such a big database now. I can spend more time focusing on just clients and just prospects and not having to worry as much about people who are leads. And so always make sure, no matter what, that you're prioritizing communication with your clients first. Don't let them forget you, because if you let your clients forget you, you are leaving money on the table, no question. And the prospects that haven't hired you yet but have expressed an interest, you don't want to lose contact with them either, because they're the next closest thing to a paid booking. And so if you prioritize your database that way, it becomes a lot easier to and a little less overwhelming. Don't look at your database and if there's 5,000 people in there, feel like you've got to constantly maintain communication with 5,000 people. I've got several thousand people in my database, but I'm consistently maintaining communication with a few hundred, because those are the clients and the prospects. The other leads that are in there, those are the ones that I revisit when there's time or when it seems appropriate or whatever. They're there. It's not that I'm never contacting new people. I'm just at a point now where the bulk of my effort is on those prospects and clients.
And stay tuned for the second half of my chat with Marc Scott, marketing guru, very, very soon, right here on the Voiceover Gurus podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Voiceover Gurus podcast. Real talk about the voiceover industry. Learn more about us and get coaching at voiceover.guru.